Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to another Irish Stew Mega Stuff video here, where I talk about a whole bunch of stuff that happens to be on my mind. I am chronically online, as the kids say, and I am awake most of the day, most of the night, so I spend a lot of time looking at things and reading about things and thinking about things. And I made one of these videos just to pass the time because I had a bunch of bees in my bonnet, and a lot of you liked it, so we just have been continuing with them. Starting with grouping things. So the big group at the beginning is some piece of news from the world, the broader world that has interested me. And then the United States of America, my own country, and then YouTube, and then BookTube, and finally culminating in me. And in world news, you probably saw this, the famous activist, Greta Thunberg, was part of a flotilla of boats designed to bring aid to Gaza. And of course, that aid is not permitted. So, in order to draw international attention to the fact that Gazans are by design, by stated military design, being starved and deprived of the means of life: no water, no food, no electricity, no health care, no nothing. And that flotilla was intercepted, and everyone on board was arrested. And when Greta Thunberg was released, she said, "I don't want to talk about what I went through because the story's not me. The story is Gaza." But one of her fellow detainees said that they were all treated horribly and that she was treated especially horribly, that she was tortured by the Israeli forces. And the Israeli PR department said what they have made a point of saying in the last 2 years, which is that is categorically false. That is an outrageous claim. How could anyone believe that of us? Butter wouldn't melt in our mouths. That's ridiculous. Are you saying that when we realized that we had a famous peace activist in our custody, we would abuse her, mock her, make her wear the Israeli flag while we took private videos of it that are certainly going to surface? Of course we didn't do anything like that. And as usual with the Israeli government's behavior since October 7th, while the PR department of the government was saying in English that they absolutely did not do this thing, whatever it is, some member of the Netanyahu government was saying in Hebrew that they did that thing, and he's very happy about it. In this case, it was the national security minister, who was bragging about torturing these detainees, including Greta Thunberg. So when those videos surface, as you know they will, I don't know what we're supposed to do with this. I mean, ideologically, it has always been difficult to justify the Zionist program of an ethnic state. Ethno-states, we are led to believe, in a multicultural society, are probably bad. They are probably regressive. They are probably going to enact apartheid. But nevertheless, you don't want to think of Israel, of all nations on earth, of being pure evil. But since October 7th, this has happened over and over and over and over again, where an Israeli minister will say, an Israeli spokesperson will get on the Sunday news shows here in America and say in English, "No, we don't consider them animals. We don't consider them cockroaches. We're not trying to kill every civilian." While at the same time, Yev Gallant or whoever is saying in Hebrew to a laughing, adoring audience that they think of these creatures as subhuman and are intending to kill them all. That pattern has just continued. When you hear the Israeli government vociferously deny some evil thing, you just wait. All you have to do is wait. You have to wait no more than 10 hours for a member of that government to admit happily that that's what they were doing. They did torture her. Good for her, trying to keep the spotlight on the real problem, but still, horrific. Just horrific. How on earth can you claim you are the good guys if you torture Greta Thunberg? How on earth can you claim that? You can't possibly claim that. Anyway, that's the world. There are lots of other world stories, but that's the world story that got to me. What a book Greta is going to write when she gets around to doing it. What a book that is going to be. But anyway, that's the world. And then the U.S. The U.S. is a continuation of what I said yesterday. Troops have been illegally dispatched to occupy the city of Chicago. And they are there. They are arriving in force all of this week. And the thing that has not been reported, the thing that no one is reporting because there is no actual verifiable evidence of this. It is true. I guarantee it beyond a shadow of a doubt. And I'm willing to rest a lot of weight on my track record of predictions when it comes to the Trump regime. It is not a fact because it is not verifiable, but I'm telling you as a fact beyond a shadow of a doubt that that contingent of troops that has been sent to Chicago was sent there with orders to start trouble. By this time next week, those troops will have killed people on the streets of Chicago, which will cause Chicago to erupt. The mayor of Chicago, the governor of Illinois are saying this is illegal. We will not take the bait. All other cities that have had these military occupations are saying don't take the bait. The point here is to get you to go crazy. The point here is to get you to rise up in anger so that Trump can invoke martial law, so that he can invoke the Insurrection Act and then martial law. So don't do it. Peacefully protest. And the troops that are being sent to Chicago, that are deploying right now in Chicago, were told to shoot peaceful protesters. Now that isn't true. That is not an established fact. That is only going to come out in international crime trials. Long time from now. But I guarantee you beyond a shadow of a doubt, that's what they were told to do. And one of them will certainly do it. So those troops are there. That is, of course, the national news that one of the largest cities in the country is being occupied by MAGA. That the president has a private army, and he's using it to occupy cities that he doesn't like, and parts of those cities that are mostly black. And he hasn't liked, neither he nor Stephen Miller has liked the fact that this has not so far worked. So rather than send kindling to a powder keg, the kindling has now been told what to do. We're not going to leave this to chance anymore. You're going to go to Chicago and you're going to shoot people. I have seen videos, TikTok videos, Instagram reels and whatnot, of former service members saying, no, it won't happen. Now, you're getting your panties in a twist for nothing. My former colleagues are not going to fire on anybody. They're not going to fire on citizens. They're going to refuse the order. No one is going to refuse that order. No one. Not one person. Not one person is going to refuse that order. So I don't know what to expect. I am 100% certain that between now and next Wednesday, that will have happened. And I don't know what comes after that. I honestly don't. All of the safeguards that could stop this from happening are just watching it. They aren't doing anything about it at all. Congress could impeach and remove this president tomorrow. They send a sergeant at arms. Of course, they can't physically do it because he has his own private militia. It mainly made up of people that he pardoned from killing cops on January 6th. But then at least it would be a clear thing. If the Senate impeaches and removes Donald Trump and he refuses to go and his private soldiers ring the White House, well, then it is a clear thing. Is the military going to take on those soldiers, kill them, and extract him or not? But right now, none of those safeguards are working at all. Even the Governor Pritzker, a fairly intelligent, fairly tough guy, is making public pronouncements of how we're going to do everything we can to stop this illegal encroachment on our state's authority, this illegal march towards authoritarianism on the part of a rogue president. He keeps making statements like that, but he's not taking the actions. There are all kinds of actions that he can take, and he's not doing it. So I don't know what will come after that, but that is the big story now. More and more troops being deployed to more and more cities to crush unrest, to crush dissent. And more, I should say, in fairness, more and more commentators waking up to the fact that this is everybody. This is not just that it's being done to them, that kind of person. This is being done to everybody, and more people are waking up to that fact. And maybe not liking the idea that if they want to drive their car 1 mile to the corner store to get some popcorn, they might have to pull over and present their papers. Maybe they don't want to live in that kind of country, and they can see it on the news. But anyway, that is the U.S. news. And ordinarily, when I'm done with the world, when I'm done with the U.S. news, I promise I'll do lighter stuff in another Mega Stuff video, as I don't want to depress you with every one of these videos. But ordinarily, when I turn to YouTube, and then BookTube, I'm turning to happier subjects. But unfortunately, the main subject on YouTube that is on my attention because, well, by now, when I'm filming this, well over 100 people, 100 of you, have sent me this story or links to the story or pictures from the story or whatnot, and it has also kicked up a furor on its own, with nothing to do with me, and involves the massively popular streamer Hassan Piker, who was doing a stream. They never say it except with the stoner intonation because they're all incredible stoners. Hassan Piker has not been on camera once in 15 years without being stoned off his ass. On a recent stream, he used a shock collar on his dog, who is always in the background of his videos. The dog was moving around too much for him, so he shocked the thing. Now, his legion of apologists, and he has them, are saying, you didn't see that. You don't know that. The dog yelped. Maybe he had a sore ankle. Maybe he was upset that Hassan Piker was obviously upset with him by raising his voice. Maybe dogs yelp when they're upset. Maybe they yelp in pain when they're upset. That is Trumpian. I should point out that, regardless of where it occurs in your life, it is a symbol of Trumpism to say that thing that you just saw didn't happen. That didn't happen. You didn't actually see it. I don't need to see a clicker device in Hassan Piker's hand to know that he shocked his dog. His dog was shocked at the neck and was frightened by that shock. Shock collars are barbaric, horrible instruments of torture anyway. They ought to be banned in America, and no self-respecting dog owner, no dog owner who wants to look in themselves in the mirror should ever even contemplate using a torture device on an animal they claim to love, and that only wants to love them. I've had this argument many, 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 many times over the years. I've always said to the other person, the monster, I've always said, well, wrap it around your wrist and let me zap you. Put it on a minimum setting. Put it on your wrist or around your neck and let me zap you. None of them ever willing to do it. One person was willing to do it, and he was absolutely stunned at how painful it was. And actually resorted to Descartesism, actually resorted to bis abstract not. When he did that and took the collar off and grabbed the controls away from me, and I said, see what I mean? He said, yeah, but they don't feel the way we do. But this throws that into the brightest possible spotlight because Hassan Piker is incredibly famous. He's in streaming circles. He's incredibly famous. Millions of people that watch him. A gigantic platform. It's totally isolated. Most people don't know who he is, but in his world, he's huge. And I know exactly what he's going to do. As a result of this, he's probably doing it already. This is a firestorm, so probably there are a million new videos about it today that I haven't even seen yet. I know exactly what he's going to do. First, he's going to deny that he did it because you couldn't see his hand on the clicker because he reached down below camera. It's obvious what happened, and I can tell you the dog was not hurting because his ankle was in pain. First, he's going to deny that he did it, even though it's visually obvious that he did, because that's the Trumpian thing to do. First, you're going to deny reality, and just tell you to deny reality. That's what people do in this era. They just tell you to deny reality. I only make one video a week. I only make one video a week. They just do that. Just flatly do that. So that'll be the first thing that he'll do. Then he'll haul out all sorts of fake compensatory research to prove that dogs can't feel it, or that they don't feel it as bad, or that it's not harmful to them. He'll utter some stupid stoner non-apology. He'll hire a firm to give a non-apology about how, if you thought that I did that and were under the bad misimpression that I would ever do that, well, then I apologize that you were under that impression. Some non-apology like that. But, of course, it's the only thing on YouTube that I'm thinking about because all of you brought it to my attention, and I'd actually seen it before anybody brought it to my attention. So, what can I say? This is, unfortunately, the attitude of 90% of the people who have dogs at all. They think of them as toys, servants, slaves. At the very best, a house slave. That's usually the best that a dog can ask for. So I as a dog have all sorts of needs. I've learned since I was 18 months old not even to go to you with them. I'm just going to eat them. because you're going to ignore them, or yell at me, or shock me, or lock me in a cage and call it a crate, or something like that. I don't even bother anymore. So the very idea that I'm going to have any kind of fulfilled life is gone. And you say, oh, you're anthropomorphizing, only humans care about fulfilled lives. Okay, great. You go ahead and tell yourself that while you continue to treat your dog like a movable fuzzy toy. You already know, all of you already know that, what I think about dogs, so you can guess what I think about this utterly horrifying little clip. In an ideal world, I would hope that it ends Hassan Piker's career, that it causes his gigantic, multi-million-dollar empire to crumble. But it won't. It'll be forgotten next week. So that is YouTube. And then we can move on to YouTube, to BookTube, which is usually also very happy. But there's a dark, ominous cloud to start with. Because I watched Joe Spivey's latest video in which he mentions the fact that he loves George Eliot's Middlemarch. He thinks in the unlikely event that anyone watching my video knows this book better than I do. I love this book. And he mentions in that video that he's doing a buddy read of it with Christopher Russell. He was here at Hyde Cottage. He was a guest here at Hyde Cottage, free to cuddle on his lap. The two of them are doing a bro buddy read of Middlemarch without me. In fact, they have said in their private messages that that's the whole point. They don't really care about this Middlemarch piece of crap. They just want to exclude Steve. They grew up so fast. But anyway, I'll leave a link to Joe Spivey's video. He's celebrating Middlemarch. There's never any bad time to do that. And also, speaking of all things Victorian, there's Katie at Books and Things, who is celebrating Victober. We are in her great BookTube event, Victober, right now. And she did one of her recent videos is a thematic video about disputed inheritances in Victorian novels, which is a great theme. It's a great idea that runs through Victorian novels. And listening to her talk about, rambling about Victorian literature is just a pure joy. So I'll leave a link to her video as well so that you can recover from the rampant betrayal of an anti-Steve Middlemarch buddy read. And then, of course, we come to the subject of me. And also the subject of emails, because not as many people as the Hassan Piker thing. More than 100 people have emailed me so far, and I haven't checked my email in a while. It's probably more than 150 people by now. Have emailed me about the fact that he tortures his dog. But quite a few of you have also emailed me about the Netflix season of Monsters. The current Netflix season of where they dramatize some serial killer or family annihilator in the case of the Menendez brothers. The latest season of that to complete is about Ed Gein, who is his crimes are unspeakable. We will never know the full extent of them. This is a case where, I understand where authorities like to destroy the home of a serial killer so that it doesn't become a sick pilgrimage site. They destroyed the apartment building where Jeffrey Dahmer last lived. They destroyed John Wayne Gacy's house, and they destroyed Ed Gein's house as well. His house of horrors. There were pictures, more pictures than are usually generally released to the public. There were a huge number of pictures of the stuff he filled that house with. But I think the house, that in his case, the house, it should definitely have been destroyed. But I think it was destroyed with a lot of evidence still in it, which is a shame. But it doesn't matter because we already know that Ed Gein was a monster, an absolute monster, who did a ton of unspeakable things. So, of course, when I knew that this was coming, I was curious about it. I get a lot of emails from people. A lot of you know that last year I studied serial killers to a rather morbid extent. So whenever this happens, whether the series bounces between serial killers and family annihilators. So we did the Menendez brothers, but the next season is going to be Lizzie Borden, who is a family annihilator. She is not. There is, believe it or not, a subtle distinction between people who kill lots of people who aren't anything to them, versus people who kill people who are related to them or something in their family group. I shudder to think what the Lizzie Borden series will be like, mainly because of the Ed Gein series, which I expected to like and did not like. Every decision that came out about it that I read ahead of time gave me pause. I got the sense from preliminary interviews that it was not going to be completely factual. What kind of a disrespect is that? We're talking about people who were murdered by this guy. And you need to gussy it up? And also, I thought, well, okay, when you were doing Jeffrey Dahmer, you got a beautiful Hollywood star to play Jeffrey Dahmer. I forget the guy's name. He played Quicksilver in the X-Men. I'm blanking on his name. He did a very good job as Jeffrey Dahmer. Very good job. And when Jeffrey Dahmer was 20 years old, he was pretty good looking, but still, I thought there's something a little bit dodgy in casting a Hollywood himbo as a serial killer. And then when I got word that they were going to do Ed Gein, who was a little creepy looking guy, looks like a ghoul you would find in a cemetery, a non-human creature. He looks that. He looks creepy. I thought, okay, well, at least for sure you're not going to do that. You couldn't possibly do it. It would be bad casting. Who did they cast? Charlie Hunnam, who's even more attractive than the kid in Dahmer. They cast Charlie Hunnam to play creepy, seedy little Ed Gein. And Charlie Hunnam has talent. I mean, he is independently wealthy now because of the Sons of Anarchy, which is a really bad show. And I was really kind of hoping that. I was sorry that was the thing on which he spent 10 years of his creative talent. I would rather it have been something better than that. But I'm always hopeful that once A Pretty Face moves on from their defining work, they will go on to something else. And Sons of Anarchy was hitting the zeitgeist in just the right way. It was at a time when shows that were vilifying the bad guys and telling you, again, Trumpian style, that they are the good guys, was all the rage. But I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. He's not good in this series of monsters. He's not good. He's corny and doesn't make you feel it at all. And I think part of the reason that you don't feel it is because of that weird juxtaposition. I mean, they did and they filmed and they broadcast a behind the scenes look at how they made him up to be Ed Gein. It isn't convincing. You could put a mile of makeup on the guy. You still know that he's drop dead gorgeous. And it doesn't work that way. It's not just a question of your cheekbones or putting, eczema spots on your forehead. People who are gorgeous from when they are 14 move in a different way than people who are not. They act in a different way. They hold themselves in a different way. It's not just a question of putting stubble on Charlie Hunnam's face. There were some very good visuals in the thing, but I've had my issues actually with every season of this series. I do not like the Family Annihilator ones. I am dreading Lizzie Borden. But even in Dahmer, some of it was beautifully done. Some of it was very, very effective. And quite a bit of it was very, very effective. But there were elements running through it that I didn't get at all, that I thought were weird. The absolute on-your-knees deification of not just his victims, but any black person at all. Any black person at all, including the black lunatic who kills Dahmer in prison. Beats him to death. Brutally beats him to death. In the scene where that happens, he tells Dahmer that God told him to do it. Now, that is true. In his delusion, he confessed to prison authorities that God told him to do it. But in the show, we see him looking at the bright light of heaven. We're supposed to believe that God told him to do it. God doesn't tell people to beat people's head in with an iron. You're supposed to sympathize. You're supposed to cheer on while that guy kills Dahmer only because that guy is black. You're supposed to cheer on Dahmer's former neighbor in his former apartment building, even though she is manifestly, objectively a jerk, because she's black. You're supposed to think that Dahmer was somehow extra bad because his victims were black, when he didn't see that himself and didn't care about it. And at one point in the show, they're dramatizing an interrogation with Dahmer. They add a black character to the dramatization, and the black character is seethingly angry because Dahmer hunted among black men in black neighborhoods for his victims, knowing that society wouldn't notice them because society is racist. When And they had to go by the transcript of the interview. It's all written down. Dahmer actually has to correct it. Has to say, I just thought they were beautiful. I didn't notice that at all. Which blows apart that whole... There was a grievance narrative that was shoehorned in to Dahmer in every episode almost. But the episodes were still really effective. The main thing I didn't like, aside from that, is the floating assumption around the Dahmer series that he was a victim. That he just couldn't catch a break. That everything was against him. That if only his mother had been more understanding or more sane, if only his father had not ignored every single clue. There's even a montage of all the clues the father ignores. That if only his father hadn't done all that, well, I don't know, maybe he wouldn't have done... And then they shifted to the same thing with the Menendez brothers, and then they do the same thing with Ed Gein. With Ed Gein, there's a very strong thread running throughout that maybe it was just all of us that let him down and made him skin people. I just recently went outside. I went out into public. I almost never do that anymore, and I was buffeted all around by lunatics and rude people and whatnot. I didn't think about using their skins to make a chair cushion. I didn't think about doing that. It's like all I can think about is that moment in Repo Man, which none of you are going to know, where a shot Emilio Estevez. It says, "I blame society," and his friend, even though he's dying, won't let him do that. You're still a jerk. It's not society's fault that you're still a jerk. I'm terrified that they're going to do that with Lizzie Borden, of course, because she's a woman, and Hollywood has signed actual contracts. It's not just that they're still ideologically compromised by this ridiculous 2018 social justice crapola. It's that during the height of that crapola, they signed agreements, actual business agreements, making them beholden to their shareholders. There's no way for the Lizzie Borden story, honestly told, to pass the Bechdel test. There's no way for that to happen. So who knows who's going to be responsible for Lizzie Borden killing everyone in her house? I don't have any idea. But with Ed Gein, it's the same way. He was a monster, an absolute monster. And by the halfway point of the show, you're supposed to feel sorry for him. So that is the me portions that a lot of you, not as many of you as with Hassan Piker, but a lot of you are asking me, what did you think of Charlie Hunnam in this role? What did you think of this whole thing? The Ed Gein story is horrifying. I don't know how many of the details you know. Most of the details, even in tell-all books, are bowdlerized. The story is horrifying. The things that he did are horrifying. Worse than almost any of the other famous serial killing monsters. That's the me portion, is that I didn't like it. Of course I wanted to. Of course I wanted to like it, but I didn't like it. And I'm not going to like it either next season. I am assuming that a 100-pound, absolute gorgeous, rail-thin, black rap star female is going to be cast as Lizzie Borden. I'm certain of that. That the casting is going to be awful, and that the show is going to immediately set about exculpating her, exonerating her. And I don't know. I'll write a letter. I don't think that networks pay attention to letters. If they do that, I'll write a letter and say, you are profaning the dead. It's not just a question of aesthetic differences here. You are profaning the dead. Why would you make an Ed Gein series and have it be inaccurate? It's not just Charlie Hunnam's face. It's that there are inaccuracies. There's all sorts of Hollywood stuff. Anyway, those are my reactions. A lot of you were asking for that, so I'll wrap this up. Sorry this went long, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.